Many people are stepping through life believing that their story will always hold them back in some way. And I can totally relate because I have been there too, believe me. What I wish I had in those moments was a reference point, someone or something to help me believe that even the darkest parts of my story was shaping me into the person I was always meant to be. Nowadays, as a international speaker, entrepreneur, and husband to the most amazing woman, I've made it my mission to help you own your story so that you can live a life of impact, influence, and inspiration. I'm Winston Ben Clements, and this is Born to Win. The Born to Win podcast, and I'd actually like to start episode 5 with a big appreciation to everyone who supported this platform so far, whether you did it and you guys have been interacting with and supporting this platform in all kinds of different ways, obviously by listening and taking action on the episodes that we've shared so far, also by leaving reviews so that we can become a recommended podcast and hopefully allows us to be reached and heard by many more people. And then the other way that you support it is by joining our online community. So, like I shared, we've got a Facebook, an Instagram page, we've got a YouTube channel, and it's just been so encouraging to see some of the messages and some of the things that you guys have been able to take away from the episodes, and yeah, just wanted to start by really giving you a huge gratitude for that. And actually, I'll just read out a few of the comments that have come up recently from the community. So I've got Mystical Rose who says about last week's episode on getting out of your rut. This is what I needed, as I've been stuck in a rut for several years now. Thank you for listening and for taking that action. We've got a comment here from Mero who says, amazing listen. I'm the same. I find boring tasks really, really hard. And I think that was in reference to when I was speaking about outsourcing and how to figure out what you need to outsource. So if you want to hear more about that, check out the previous episode. And I'll just read one more. I'd like a video on outsourcing and systems. So similar again. So check out that previous episode on getting out of your rut. These are just some of a selection of comments that came up. And again, just want to give you guys a shout out for engaging with the content and for taking that action in your own lives. And you might be listening to this for the first time, and do you know what? I'd absolutely love for you guys to be part of this community of winners too, right? Because I see this as a space for all of you guys to engage, of course, with the content, to apply it, but also for us to learn and to grow with each other. And I include myself in that. So, if you do want to connect, check out the show notes for all the links to the various ways you can connect with this platform, and send in your questions as well, because I always love to hear your questions, to hear which topics that you guys care about, because that helps me think about how best to be of service to you. Okay, so that's why I wanted to start with this episode. And so just kind of switching gears then on this episode, and maybe I'll start by giving you guys a quick life update. So it's been so business wise, it's been a pretty busy December of speaking engagements. So I may have mentioned in a previous episode that I did an event for Google a couple of weeks ago, which was super fun. And I've also recently done a bunch of other pretty high profile events for the NHS, Nationwide Bank. And I think I've got one more event this week before I take a little bit of a break over Christmas. Right. And I'll be honest with you, I'm really looking forward to the break. In fact, I was just chatting with my my wife the other day about just having a conversation on burnout, because recently, I've had a few days where I've kind of felt super tired, and it made me question, whether I was burnt out. Am I burnt out? What's all this tiredness about, right? And I guess maybe that's where I'll spend a bit of time today. So burnout is defined as a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. That's the official definition. If you Google it, that's what comes up, right? Um, and and let me give you my take on it. So I guess my position has always been that burnout only happens when you're not in alignment, or when you're doing work that you're not fully passionate about. So that's been my position. So I kind of had my outlook was, you can't really be burnt out if you're passionate about the thing that you're doing, right? And I guess it's a little bit like the famous quote, which I'm sure many of you will have heard. And it goes something like, "If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life," right? If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, which kind of speaks to that idea. If I am on purpose, if I am, operating within my passions and within my gifts, then it doesn't feel like work. And so it's unlikely that I'll ever get burnt out doing something that I love, right? And that was, I guess, that was my school of thinking, right? And to be honest, that's part of the reason why I created this platform, the Born to Win platform, because again, if you're owning your story, because this platform is all about stories. If you're owning your story and following following that purpose and that calling and that passion, which is yours, then everyone benefits. You benefit because you are using your God-given abilities. You're expressing your God-given abilities, and everyone else benefits because they are at the receiving end of your gifts and your abilities. So to me, operating in that space of your purpose and your passion has always felt like the place to be, because you flow better and you're less likely to be burnt out, because you're not doing something that is incongruent to who you are, right? And so so back to burnout. So when I was kind of thinking about all of this, I got a little bit confused, because I love what I do. I love helping people unleash their full potential, whether it's through, me recording this podcast episode for you right now, whether it's through speaking at a corporate event, like I have been doing recently, or even whether it's coaching someone, or speaking to someone one-to-one, right? This is the work that I love. This is the work that I believe is the calling that God has placed on me, right? And so back to what I was speaking about with my wife. So why have I been feeling burnt out? If I do love this stuff, if it is in alignment, if it is my purpose, then why have I been having these days of tiredness, and these days that kind of felt like I was burnt out, right? Um, and yeah, and I guess the way my mind works, I'm very logical, so it kind of made me even question everything. Is it that I've been deluding myself that I love this work? Maybe I don't. Maybe I've just been convincing myself. Um, or is there more to it than meets the eye, right? And by the way, I'm not an expert on burnout or wellness. There are people who've studied and gone to school and got qualifications on this. I am not one of those people. Um, so all I can do here is give you my take on it, right? And here's the conclusion that I came to, which is, and I guess it was a shift in my outlook. Um, so I no longer see burnout as black and white. So by that I mean I no longer see burnout as a as a case of, oh, if you're if you're in purpose, if you're on purpose, or flowing within your passion, you cannot be burnt out. Or if you're doing, or conversely, if you're doing something that is not in purpose, or a job that you don't like, for example, that will automatically lead to burnout. I don't see it as being black and white, um, in that sense. I now believe that there are so many other factors that could have an impact, on whether you reach a state of burnout, or otherwise, right? Um, and for me, just to use my own, when I reflect on my own last few months, for example, um, so I've gone through massive change in the last few months. And for those of you that follow me on social media, or people who I've spoken to over the last few months, you'll know that I got married in the last few months. I moved into a new home with my wife over the last few months. I lost my mom recently, so these are major big life events that have happened all in the space of a few months, right? And these are just sort of the big ones. There's been so many other, I guess, micro events as well that have happened, and I'm sure we can all relate to this as well, because we've all had to deal with some pretty big things in 2020, or at the very least, we've all had to deal with some different things in 2020, right? And these things, these events, they've had an impact on the various areas of our lives. So they've had impact on work, business, relationships, on our health, on the health of loved ones, for example, right? And so, in my view, all of these additional events can contribute to burnout, right? So it's no longer, remember, just about am I passionate or not when it comes to burnout. It's also thinking about the wider picture. What else has been going on, or what else could impact this state of burnout, right? Because let's say, for example, think of a good example. So let's say someone's health, or yeah, what's a good example? So let's say someone's health, or the health of a family member, or your finances have been affected, which is a true story for many people in 2020, right? Of course, that person will no longer be able to give 100% to their work or to their passion, because they're carrying an extra weight. They're carrying an additional weight of a health situation or a financial situation that's come up, which, like I say, is a reality for many people in 2020, right? And so, yeah, I'm not gonna go too much in depth into discussing burnout today, because, like I said, it's not my area of expertise. And do let me know if this is a topic that you guys, by the way, would love to hear more about, because I do know some experts, and I'm happy to bring someone on to unpack burnout further, right? But the one thing I really wanted for you guys to take away on this episode is just to give yourself grace, right? Give yourself grace. And I'm actually speaking to myself here as well as I say this, right? And I feel this so strongly for someone who is listening to this right now. 2020 it's been crazy. As we know, it's been a crazy, unprecedented year. And it's okay. It's okay if you've only been able to operate at 50% or even 20%. It's okay. I really feel that someone needed to hear that today, right? It's okay. And just because you know someone who in 2020 they got a new job, or they bought a house, or they got married, all of these things are amazing, and it's a blessing when they happen to anyone, and we should celebrate. But these events, these situations should not make you feel less worthy or feel under pressure to do something big. Because life works in seasons, and your time is coming, right? Don't let that sense of comparison make you feel less worthy. Oh, Winston got married in 2020. What am I doing, right? Don't let that sense of comparison make you feel less worthy or put you under that pressure um to create. I feel like this is the time to be gentle on yourself, to give yourself that grace. And that's what's been put on my heart, on my awareness today, to share with you guys, right? And I'm just thinking ahead, as we come to the end of the year. I will be sharing a little bit more around how I'm preparing myself mentally, physically, and spiritually to bounce back in 2021, right? But like I said, after my speaking engagement tomorrow, the final one for me this year, as much as I love speaking, I'm really looking forward to that break. And I'll be giving myself that grace, taking some downtime, spending the time with family, reconnecting, and just using Christmas as a time to recharge and recover, right? So it's okay. Give yourself some grace, no matter what the previous 11 and a half months have looked like. Just use this time to reconnect with yourself and to give yourself that self-compassion and that grace. And I think that's pretty much it for what I wanted to share today. It was a simple thought that came to me, but a thought that I really felt strongly that someone or many people perhaps needed to hear today. And I know I mentioned that I'll be taking some downtime over the next couple of weeks. But don't you worry, you will still be getting your weekly your weekly dose of Born to Win. And in fact, I've got a very, very special episode for you next week where I have invited my first ever guest onto the show. I'll be interviewing my wife, Mayfair Clements, who'll be sharing her story and giving you her best tips on how you can live a life of impact, influence, and inspiration. It's going to be a powerful, powerful episode, and I know you don't want to miss it. And yeah, like I said, brief episode this week. So you look after yourselves, and I look forward to connecting with you this time next week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And by the way, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or some other kind of app and you got some value from today's episode, then I'd absolutely love if you could drop me a quick review. Until next time.